Alright boys and girls, welcome back to another Solo Leveling Arise video. Okay, we have had a couple different streams going on today. One of the major questions in my stream specifically was, hey Payne, what blessing stone and what rune skill should I choose from the mail? So I'm going to go over the top 3 for each one and why you want to choose it. And I'll tell you guys what I chose on my free-to-play account. I have yet to decide what I want to choose in my pay-to-win because I think I have most of these already in the epic format. But so I might be aiming for a legendary and hopefully get what I need. But I will give you guys a breakdown of the most important ones and why. Okay, and where you want to use these blessing stones and which pair of content. So let's go through the blessing stones first because I think those are important. These are the harder ones to get in my opinion. And we're going to talk to you guys about 3 of the best ones and where they're going to be used. And if you are stuck in some of these content, this may be the one you choose because of that. Okay, so first off, let's discuss the top 3. So we're going to go through this whole section. You know what? I'll do top 5 because I think there's more than just 3. There's top 5. Let's do top 5. Okay, so we'll talk about weakness detection first. Now, remember, this one here is very important because this will only work when the opponent has the weakness of the element. If that opponent has the weakness of the element, you actually do 12% more of that elemental damage to the opponent. So this is very situational to your hunter's elements, to your weapon elements, and then the weakness of the opponent. So for example, for the dragon, this is a great one. So if the dragon has fire weakness, well, you bring fire weapons, you bring fire hunters. With this blessing stone, you do 12% more damage on Juno. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. Very useful, but also requires a specific niche. Same with Assassin's Proficiency. I'm just going to get these ones out of the way. This is great if you do back attack damage. Now for POD, for example, because we talked about this a long time ago, I remember I figured out that Baruka's dagger did always back attack damage. So we realized you always do back attack damage on the dragon. So this here is incredible for that because it's just a flat 11% damage on POD. So if you're stuck on POD and that's where you spend most of your time doing your damage, then this is a great one as well too. So these are very, again, situational based on the actual fight itself. So take those as you will with a grain of salt. I think personally you're better off picking different ones, but I want to get those out of the way. Symphysis is also another pretty decent one because it allows you to use the plum sword more often, right, because of amplifying draw. So this one again is very good if you're having trouble with dashing, but if you are using the plum sword, this one is incredible because it gives you an extra amplifying draw along the way, especially if you have an A3. Now let's talk about the best ones from a damage perspective. So double-edged sword is one of the easiest ones to do because as you attack your opponent, you increase your attack by 3% for 10 seconds, and you can stack that as well too, up to 4 times. Okay, so this is a straight attack buff, and it's very, very easy to get. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, the caveat here, of course, is that they can also stack their attack up to 4 times. Okay, keep that in mind. Just main thing to note. All right, so there's that. Now, the next one here is going to be Boss Lair. Boss Lair here is amazing, but it does do one thing that takes away from it. So you'll do a full 12% more damage on bosses, and bosses are the ones that usually fight at the end. They're non-elites, they're bosses. You can tell, Kargalagalagalagan, Tank, etc. Right? Those are bosses. Vulcan, another boss. Cerberus, another boss. Right? The Arachne, another boss. You'll do 12% more flat damage to them completely, but your dash will also increase its cooldown by 20%. So if you're not good at dashing and surviving, this is an amazing one if you are, but if you're not, you may want to reconsider this one, but this is one of the top ones for sure. Boss Lair is up there for sure. Chain of Blood is another really good one if you play with anything that will reduce your HP, or if you yourself just get hit and you can survive after that. It will increase your full attack by 18%. So this is a massive increase in your attack, but the caveat is, of course, you have to lose some HP. So these 3, I'd say, are pretty important, okay? Now, Pulverize is probably one of the best ones. The reason why is the power of your break attacks do an extra 18% more on the shield, so you do more break damage. And then when that opponent is in the break state, you do 18% more damage while they're in the break state itself. Now, remember, the break state is when they're kneeling down before they come back up, and then the break debuff is gone, okay? So it is a small window. And of course, the caveat of course is the fact that they have to have a break bar. If they don't have a break bar, this is useless. You have no use for this whatsoever. So keep that in mind, but it is one of the best ones, and I would highly suggest going for this as one of your top choices. Reawakening is another really powerful one. 12% reduction on all cooldowns is nothing to scoff at. It's actually can reduce up to 2 to 3 seconds on some of your big cooldowns. So this one is a very important one if you need it. Sharp Protection, I wouldn't go for this one unless you have the legendary one. I think the legendary one's worth it. This, even at 2%, stacking up to 5 times is only 10%. It's still good, but I don't think this is one of the ones you need to go for, especially because crit hit rate you can get up pretty high very easily on your own. Advanced Dagger Technique is one of my favorite ones. When you get the opponent's HP to 70% or below, you usually deal a flat 8.4% more damage in general. The damage number is lower than some of the other ones, but most of them are 70% is pretty easy to get to. Plus, it's super, there's no other condition required. So here are my favorite ones, okay? It'd be Advanced Dagger Technique, Pulverize, Reawakening. So those are the 3. I'm going to go with 5. Boss Slayer and Double-Edged Sword, okay? The rest of them are all a little bit too niche for me, but it doesn't mean they're bad. Look at your account and pick the ones that makes the most sense for you, okay? So those are the top 5 for me personally that I would choose. The one I chose for this specific one was actually Pulverize for my free-to-play account, okay? Because I didn't have it, I chose it. That was the one that made the most sense. Now let's go over to the rune skills, okay? Now this one here is also going to be an important one. A couple things to note. The ones that matter the most are going to be the ones that are actually going to make an impact when they go to epic. If you have some of these rare versions, you don't need to go for epic because damage increase is not that high, right? One of the ones I would really highly recommend, for example, is going to be this Annihilation one. When something is in break state, for example, the dragon or Vulcan, whoever you fight, when they are in break state, you do 150% more damage of this right here, right? So that's a very, very powerful one. And something for like POD or something like Vulcan that does, that can, not Vulcan, sorry, like the Arachnid or whatever, that comes back with more, not the Arachnid, because I mean Jinu doesn't really fight him. Yeah, I guess Cerberus is what I was thinking of, but Cerberus only has 1 break bar, I believe, if I recall, right? Even then, within that time frame, or the dragon, the POD dragon, you're going to be able to do 150% more damage. This is really meant for POD though. So at the end of the day, I think this is, if you're again trying to boost your POD numbers, Annihilation is a great one. Effulgence is actually really good too as well. This one here does quite a bit of damage. It does the knockdown effect, but whenever you hit something with this, it resets the cooldown, so you can actually cast it twice. When the skill is used, you can increase your crit hit damage by 30% for 12 seconds, doing that 2 times. That's crazy, right? So keep that in mind. So this is actually a very, very powerful buff. So this is one of the ones I highly do recommend using. Now, Black Hole I only recommend if you don't have the rare version. If you don't have Black Hole, definitely get this. In general, it's one of the most sought after and one of the best crowd controlling story mode ones that you can possibly have. So Black Hole is super important, but again, if you have the rare, do not upgrade it to the epic. It's not worth it. You have better options there, okay? In regards to any other ones here, you already have some of these Earth Shocks. You already have Eruption's really good as well, by the way. Eruption's a great one because you do more damage to bosses, but I honestly find myself using this one less and less, and I use Earth Shock a lot more because I want that extra 30% crit damage. Plus, if you use this with Black Hole, it resets it. And then Crosshairs is super important. If you don't have Crosshairs, I highly, highly recommend getting Crosshairs. This is a really big one for all of the Battlefield of Times or any type of AoE grinding that you do. And then the last 2 honorable mentions here, quite honestly, in my opinion, are going to be Decimation, which is going to be your strongest hitting armor break one. So this one I recommend. So see if you have it. You can see here when the skill is used, increases critical hit damage by 50% for 5 seconds. So you can do quite a bit more damage with critical hit when this is active. And the other one here would be the Vacuum Wave. And Vacuum Wave, I also think it's not really necessarily needed if you have a rare, but it's still very powerful and does work. The reason why this one's so important is you actually do 10% more damage for 12 seconds and also increases the damage of vertical art. So if you have this plus for example, Crosshairs, it increases the damage of Crosshairs even more by 20% for 10 seconds. So those are the most important ones I would suggest going for. So again, just to do a quick breakdown, Decimation, Vacuum Wave, where was the other one here? Sorry guys, one sec here. Crosshairs. Earth Shock is up to you. Still, it's great. It's up to you though. I personally wouldn't go for Black Hole if you don't have the version right now, and Effulgence. Those are the ones I would go with as these skills to choose from. All right, guys, this is Payne. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.